Films have the power to transport us to new worlds and introduce us to unforgettable characters. But sometimes, even with all the right ingredients, a film just doesn't quite hit the mark. Don't Breathe is a prime example of this, a film that combines enduring themes with brutal violence, but fails to come together in a satisfying way. This thriller, directed by Fede Alvarez, follows a group of young burglars who break into the home of a blind man, only to find themselves trapped in a deadly game of cat and mouse. While the film's use of violence is undeniably impactful, it fails to fully explore its deeper themes, leaving the audience feeling unsatisfied. In this video, we'll explore why Don't Breathe is like a poorly cooked meal, and how its ingredients fall short of creating a truly satisfying cinematic experience. Don't Breathe is a psychological horror thriller directed by Fede Alvarez, known for his work on Evil Dead. The film follows three young robbers who target the home of a blind war veteran, hoping to make a quick and easy fortune. However, they quickly realize they'd made a grave mistake, as their victim turns out to be more than they bargained for. The film's plot is well-crafted and intriguing, but it's the violence that stands out the most. Don't Breathe is a brutal and violent film that is not for the faint of heart. The violence is particularly graphic and intense, and the film's use of sound and lighting only heightens the impact. It's clear that Alvarez wants to make the audience feel as though they are part of the action, and the violence is so visceral that it's hard to look away. But what impact does this violence have on the viewer? For some, it may be too much to handle. The brutality of the violence can be disturbing and leave a lasting impression on the viewer. However, for others, it may be the reason they came to see the film in the first place. The impact of the violence can be subjective, but one thing is for certain, it leaves an impression. The film's themes of justice and morality are also present throughout the film, but they don't feel fully realized. The characters are one-dimensional, and their motivations are never fully explained, making it hard for the audience to connect with them on an emotional level. The film's plot twists also feel contrived and predictable, taking away from the overall impact of the story. In conclusion, Don't Breathe is a film that has all the right ingredients, but fails to come together in a satisfying way. The violence is impactful, but the deeper themes and character development are lacking. While it's an engaging and intense film, it falls short of its potential to be a truly memorable and thought-provoking piece of cinema. Don't Breathe is a film that uses violence to create fear and tension throughout its runtime. The film's brutal violence is a significant part of what makes it so intense, but it also has the potential to leave a lasting impact on the viewer. Violence in cinema has always been a controversial topic, and Don't Breathe is no exception. While some may argue that violent scenes in movies are necessary to evoke an emotional response from the audience, others believe that such content can have negative psychological effects. The violent scenes in Don't Breathe are impactful and leave a lasting impression on the viewer. The graphic nature of the violence and the intense sound effects used to enhance it can be unsettling for some viewers. The violence in the film is visceral and can leave some feeling disturbed, making it clear that Don't Breathe is not a film for everyone. Watching violent content in movies can have psychological effects on viewers. The exposure to violence on screen can lead to desensitization and normalization of such behavior in real life. It can also lead to increased aggression and a desensitization to the suffering of others. These effects can be even more pronounced in younger viewers, which is why many countries have rating systems in place to protect them from such content. Despite the potential negative effects, Don't Breathe effectively uses violence to create fear and tension in its audience. The film's suspenseful and intense atmosphere is a testament to its use of violence as a tool for storytelling. However, it is important to remember that the impact of such content can be significant, and viewers should approach the film with caution. In conclusion, Don't Breathe is a film that uses violence to great effect, but it is not without its potential consequences. The film's use of violence creates fear and tension, but it also has the potential to leave a lasting impact on the viewer. It's important to approach such content with caution and recognize its potential psychological effects. Depicting violent scenes in movies has been a staple of Hollywood for decades. However, the ethical considerations involved in such depictions have been a topic of debate for just as long. The impact of on-screen violence on viewers cannot be underestimated. Studies have shown that exposure to violent content can lead to desensitization, anxiety, and even aggression. This raises the question of whether filmmakers have a responsibility to consider the impact of their work on viewers. Don't Breathe is a movie that pushes the boundaries of on-screen violence. The film follows a group of young thieves who break into the house of a blind man, hoping to steal his fortune. However, they soon realize that the man is not as helpless as he seems and must fight for their survival. The movie is a masterclass in tension and fear, and much of this is due to its brutal violence. But is the violent content in Don't Breathe necessary for the story, or is it gratuitous? This is a question that has divided critics and audiences alike. Some argue that the violence is essential to the story and heightens the sense of danger and fear. Others believe that the violence is gratuitous and adds nothing to the movie. Filmmakers have a responsibility to consider the impact of their work on viewers. The graphic nature of violence in Don't Breathe raises questions about whether the filmmakers cross the line in their depiction of violence. Ultimately, it's up to the individual viewer to decide whether the violence in the movie is necessary or gratuitous. But one thing is for sure, Don't Breathe is a movie that will leave you breathless, both from its tension and its violence. Throughout the tense thriller Don't Breathe, the use of brutal violence is pervasive, from the opening scene to the film's climactic ending. However, while the filmmakers may have intended to create a sense of fear and tension in their audience, the impact of the violent scenes may leave some viewers feeling uncomfortable and even traumatized. It's important to recognize the psychological effects of watching violent content and the ethical considerations involved in depicting it on screen. As filmmakers, there is a responsibility to consider the potential impact of their work on viewers and to ask whether the violent content is necessary for the story or gratuitous. Despite the gripping nature of Don't Breathe, it's important to acknowledge that it may not be suitable for all audiences, particularly those who are sensitive to violent content. While some viewers may find the film to be a satisfying thriller, others may find the violence to be too much to bear. As always, it's important to consider your own personal limits and make a decision that is right for you.